You've got my Toronto mug there, Nicole.
Nice.
Hello, everybody. We're going to get started here while Chris Sprints has a cup of coffee. And we're going to wait for everyone to jump on board here and join our show. So give me a second, and we will start right away. All right. So I'm going to get started because we know viewers are going to jump on during this. So welcome everybody to our third series of our Snap Back to Business webinar that we're doing with Sysco Canada, and we're very excited today to have a special guest, and we'll introduce our special guest here in a second. But today, really, you know what? We're very happy for everyone that's able to join in and watch us and watch these videos after. There's a lot of information we're going to go through, but we really know that a lot of people are in a position here. We're hearing provinces open up more and more every day of getting back into business. And that's really what we want to do here, is provide all the resources and everything that we can find, we know about. And we don't, sometimes we don't know all the answers, but we've interviewed a lot of people over the last 9 weeks, and we're staying really close to a lot of institutions out there and companies providing us great information and data to really help you out. So we're going to bring as much as we can to you, and hopefully you can find some use within all this information. So today's goal, it's really simple. We're going to have an overview of the time commitment and then what we're offering here. We're going to review operations and staffing, right? So right now there's a huge number of restaurants that won't open again. And there's going to be a huge number of restaurants and people get back into business and try something different. So I don't want to get doom and gloom on that, but we want to be able to give you some information and stuff ahead of the curve as you slowly start to open up. So one of the things I just want to talk about briefly, I'm just going to slide that because we're starting right now, is a disclaimer. Things change. It's fluid. So we're going to do the best on here. This information is confidential to Sysco. We're hoping no one uses this for other means. But anyways, we're going to move on here. I'm going to pass this over to Mr. Chris Sprints to do some introductions. Chris?
Awesome. Thank you, Jay. So man of the hour here, Jay Ashton, who's our business resource lead and activation manager for Sysco Canada. Just a great mentor and leader of our business resource world here at Sysco Canada. Jay hails from the sunny shores of northwest of Edmonton, Alberta. I'm here in Calgary, Alberta. We've got rain for the last 3 days, so I won't say it's sunny out there, but it's a great day to be indoors and doing this. So my name is Christopher Sprints, Director of Business Resources for Sysco, Alberta. And with us today, we're very, very honored to have our special guest, Nicole Gallus, who's the founder of Food Grads, just an awesome organization company that merges graduated F&B students with prospective employers. So I will let her talk about her wonderful company and give us a little brief history on how she developed this company and where we're at today. Take it away, Nicole.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I really appreciate the opportunity. So Food Grads, we're 4 years old. The basis behind starting Food Grads was I had recruited in the industry for 10 years prior and had really seen a gap with young people joining the industry. And when I would interview people, they would share their background and experience. And very rarely did they say, I'd always wanted to work in food, or it was my dream to get into the food industry. It tended to be something, certainly on the food processing side, that people fell into. I think probably more on the food service restaurant side, people do start out with the hopes of working in a restaurant, owning a restaurant, that type of thing. But really, it was a case of let's get more young people involved in the food and beverage industry. There's so much to do in terms of improving the industry, food systems, and we need those, bright, intelligent, ambitious people to come to this industry and bless us with their ideas and their personalities to make the industry better and keep striving. So Food Grads is an interactive platform for students and grads. They can sign up for free, and we offer a job board for employers to buy a subscription and post all their entry-level jobs experimental learning, which is something we're really trying to promote. Right now, it's tricky, job shadowing and that type of thing. We want to promote that. Obviously, with COVID, that's making it a little more tricky, but virtual tours and that type of thing, I think, certainly employers should be encouraged to do those and share with students and grads, show what's going on behind the curtain in their organizations. And as I say, we've been around for 4 years, and we have a college and university partnership as well, where we support colleges and universities, students and grads to find careers, to promote different job options that are available, and basically just be an overall support.
Awesome.
That is awesome, Nicole. So well, and we're a big supporter at Sysco Canada.
You really have been. I appreciate it.
And we love working with you. So welcome to the show. So Chris, I'm just going to take over and share with everyone, because I get excited about this, is our Sysco Advantage partners.
Yes, you do.
I have to, because it's awesome. It's one of the things that we talk about here. We introduce this on all of our shows, a little bit about Sysco Advantage partners. You can view all of our Sysco Advantage partners up on our foodisunite.ca site. Go on there, go check it out. There's amazing companies on there that we've partnered with to be able to give you some advantages as restaurants open back up on some of these amazing solutions and sources that these people have. And these companies is outstanding. MPP Marketing Company will help you with free website rebuilds. That's unbelievable. Got to be a partner of Sysco, and you get some amazing deals with these companies. So please check it out. Food is Unite. We have a snapback toolkit that's on that site as well. And it's something you got to check out. We have really researched and dug up a lot of amazing tools out there. There's an abundance of tools. Everyone's got a checklist. We got a lot on the site that you can go check out, and to learn something, use. Please use as much as you can. We've got a lot of shows on there too. We also have a podcast series, which I think, Nicole, you've been on. We have a podcast series also up on iTunes and on Spotify under Sysco Canada. Go check it out. I think we've just loaded our 49th show up on the podcast channel. So go check it out. It's a lot of fun. And we're going to bring to you some amazing things over the next few weeks and months ahead when it comes to innovation ideas and a lot of content that is really going to help through these times. So I'm going to move over to Chris, and Chris is going to talk a little bit about the agenda.
Awesome. Thanks, Jay. So today we're going to talk about our obviously our current landscape and what the unknown charted territories are. We're just going to, we don't want to be doom and gloom, but we want to stay positive and have a great perspective from our show here, and talked about some great solutions and resources that we can help, and it's not so gloomy, so we can travel through this uncharted territory together. Returning to a service safely. So this is a big component of opening up and making sure you're ready and you're trained, your staff are trained, your team is ready to go. And we'll talk a little bit about that and safety measures for everyone, including your customers. So everyone is coming back to work with a safe environment, because there is a lot of nervous uncertainties out there with folks going in and going out to dining in, because they want to make sure they're going to be safe. Adapting to the change, so ties into our current landscape. Your sanitation story, talking about what your practices are, what your best practices will be to keep your environment safe for your team and for your customers. Just do a basic restaurant 101, just touch on some cost controls and some measures there, and then embracing some new systems. And we're going to give Nicole a ton of time here to talk about her area of expertise, and she can talk about what she has to offer from her company, and we'll go from there. So next slide, Jay, I think is you, or is that me?
I think it's me, buddy.
Back to you, buddy. Here we go.
All right. Chris and myself have worked 14 years together, so we have to apologize if we heckle each other a little bit today, but we'll have some fun today. We won't be doom and gloom. Really want to talk about what we're going to be doing here is really evaluating your operations to the end to end. We need to look at all this from what we're doing within sanitation and what the consumers are going to be looking for right now when they go into your restaurant. We're going to talk a little bit about that today on this session. We're also going to be really around you're establishing a system, right? So you got checklists in your washrooms are going to have to be visible. knowing that people know that you're cleaning your washrooms more frequently. Those things are going to have to be up there. You're going to have to dictate this through some social media or what you're doing to protect your guests and all the amazing things you're doing. You know, we had, I did a podcast yesterday and a show yesterday with the Canadian Institute of Food Safety. I got to make sure I get that right. And they talked about the virus, this COVID-19 virus is actually fairly easy to kill. So all the practices that we have been doing in the past, when we do keep our kitchens as clean as we do, and we keep them super clean, it kills the virus really easily. So it's an easy virus to kill. It's everywhere, right? So we need to make sure that our guests feel safe and protected when they come into there. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today in our goals. And then over there, and this is where Nicole is really going to help us out here, is also how do we rehire and train our staff, right? And when you go through these things, I apologize, but they are just incredible, the things you're going to think about. How many times you're going to meet every day with your staff and training them. You're going to have to reiterate a lot of things over and over again in your one-on-one meetings in the morning, afternoon, nighttime. What's your shutdown procedures look like when you close out your restaurant for the day and make sure every task is done? And what's your opening procedures look like? Those are going to all need to be adjusted, and your staff's going to have to be trained on those. Also, you're going to have to, when you hire them back, who are you going to bring back, right? And there's going to be some sensitive conversations in those areas of who comes back and who doesn't, right? And how do you work that out? And how do you make sure that those people are healthy coming back as well? Like Chris, we've worked in this industry 30 years plus. These are things that we never thought we'd have to, review and readjust. We've never had to adjust those conversations into the context we're dealing with today. So it is definitely something that we're going to go through today and hopefully help you out.
Awesome.
So Chris, over to you.
Awesome. So this is our setup to snap back here, our awesome diagram of the operation, and just some points we want to go through just so it's good to have a visual kind of roadmap of what your operation looks like, and each corner of your business has got the proper separate procedures from each curbside and to go. What does that look like? So how you keeping that safe and sanitary, having that 2 meter distancing from your patrons to your team and from each other. So having those arrows on the sidewalk or arrows on the floor going into your operation, so people are properly distanced, and make sure they know that when they get there. It's no big surprise when there should be no big surprise when they come into your operation that you have this set up, and there's no awkwardness where they need to stand and go. Host, servers, and bussers. This next spot here, this has got to be the most important visual sanitation area of your operation. This is where everybody's going to be watching. If you've got one server in your area or your restaurant that's doing all the work, doing the bussing, the serving, the cleaning, all the operations on the front of the house, that person is doing one person is doing all 3-4 jobs. This is key. You want to rethink that and make sure you have the proper processes, and have that bus person on duty, or a hostess helping with cleaning, where the person dropping off the food is not the same person who picks up the dirty dishes and handles all the hard surfaces. So you want to make sure that visually is separated and sanitized each and every transaction. So make sure that's done. Prep and production. Obviously, this is something that's always been a must in any operation, is to have that prep cleaning and production cleaning, that the food and sanitation, the food handling is sound. People are certified and trained on how to keep things safe and sanitized at all times. So this is in the background. This is behind closed doors in most operations, but you still got to make sure you're keeping that system sound and safe and sanitary all throughout the operation. Just making sure everything has got a process to be clean and sanitized after every transaction. Opening, closing procedures, midday shifts. Every person has a part in keeping things sanitary and clean.
Can I butt in? I just thought of an idea as you were speaking. As a consumer, and this is something that I found myself, do you think it's a good idea for operators to send an email or communicate prior to people coming to the restaurant and just laying out expectations? Because I know I've walked into the grocery store myself, and it was the first time, and I had the mask on, and it's kind of disorientating, and you're so nervous of people around you and where you should be, and then you've got someone saying follow the arrow over there, and so I'm wondering whether that's something that operators should do as well, is send it sort of almost like a checklist, be aware this is our procedure, makes people feel better about going in as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Thanks, Nicole. Actually, I had to get my my eyes rechecked last 2 weeks ago. I had to go get an exam at one of the eyeglass places here in Calgary, and they had been open for a while. So they sent me 2 pre-warning emails before I got there, saying, don't forget, you have to wear a mask. Don't be early. Don't be late. You have an appointment at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, or whatever it was. You have to be here at that time. Don't dilly-dally when you look at glasses. They just tell me, you take a pair of glasses off, you put them on the table, and don't put them back. Just they'll take care of all that. So so I knew exactly. Okay, where do I go? It was no question. There's a procedure, but I think that for restaurants, for sure, I think there's a kind of a given. I know it's been kind of. I don't know. It's been kind of up in the air at some of the grocery stores I've gone to in Calgary, where it's just not really, people aren't really following the arrows and not following the rules. They're limiting the amount of people in the store, which is good. So you're not, elbow to elbow with people. So I think that's important. That's a great point, Nicole.
Yeah, and I think, Nicole, the more that we can make our customers that are coming into our restaurants as comfortable as possible, right? They're more likely, one, to come back as well.
Right.
But definitely some notions of what you're doing. And I think from people that are looking to communication through their social channels, let's say, about the procedures, or we're ready to open up, this is what we've done. I think when I would definitely add maybe some time frames within that communication as well, just so they know that it's not 2 weeks old, 3 weeks old. You want to build the confidence within the consumer here.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think this week, today we're doing this, and here's our special, and this is what we're doing also to make sure that we're protecting you and we're keeping you safe. I think that needs to be addressed almost in a daily manner if you're putting out specials and you're communicating what you're doing to your menus. I think the more that we can make people feel safe, the better it is for business. And until that becomes something that maybe it's every 2 weeks, maybe it's every 2 days, 2 weeks, you slowly start to, as we shift back into the world that it'll look like moving forward. I tried not to say the new world. So, anyways, we'll move on here. We got lots to go through, lots to talk about. So one of the things we really want to evaluate, and I think that we just started that here. I'm going to move to the next slide right away, is evaluate and to look at your operation from a consumer's perspective, right? What do they see? We used to do this when I used to work with some of these large chains and ran restaurants. Is we used to actually make our servers sit in the booths or sit in the chairs of where the consumers were, and then made them observe what they see. It's always different from a server point of view or from a manager's point of view is to look down. You don't see under the tables. You don't see a lot of these different things. You don't see those. So we definitely want to make sure when you're evaluating your restaurants is get in the consumer shoes and look at what they're seeing. And I think that's so important when you are planning to open up or snap back into business. You need to look at all these different things. So one of the things in here, and one of the things I want to talk about here briefly is a lot of restaurants have modified their operation models recently to do curbside delivery, off-premise. Some have built some retail models into their restaurants, which is just outstanding. We need to look at, but it's preparing your business for the new norm, right? And this is going to be something that I think we're going to learn along the way, and more restaurants are going to adjust as we move forward. And I find it very important so that everyone on the call knows is that we here at Sysco Canada, we have, like I said before, we have a tremendous amount of resources here, all the way down to helping you with your menu and helping with your marketing strategies. Third-party companies are going to help with a lot of things as well, but we also have our own resources within the teams that we have within Canada. So please reach out to your teams, email Chris, myself, Find out what you can do to get that support. I think that saying that we heard when this crisis came out, we're all in this together. Cisco's here to support our customers big time on this new landscape. And I know I was on a call earlier with Chris, and we're just talking about, if you run into something that you don't know the answer, reach out and ask what we do with it, or how do you get through it. Same thing with us. If you run into something you don't know what to do, let us know. We may not know all the answers, but we'll sure hunt for some sort of answer for you. And we'll we've got an amazing amount of connections across this country to be able to help you through this. So when you're looking at your new current landscape, I guess, please let us know if there's something that we can do to help. And that might be information, what it's going to look for. But I want to share these few quotes that we got. And I know they are from the US, Mark, and I apologize, but I thought they were so good to talk about this and to really bring this out. The off-premise will remain strong. We know this. So we know that this is going to be. So if you haven't dabbled in this, or you are, or you're building into it, and it might be that you've started small, now it's starting to grow, it will and continue to be a big part of your business as we move forward here and we snap back into fully get into the new norm. This will become a big area of business as we move forward. And it's a great operation if you can do it right. My biggest recommendation on anyone that's on this, know your numbers. I cannot stress that enough. We have to be kind of in the middle of the ground with them, what we think about it, on our opinions. But all I have to say to every operator that's working on third-party delivery and has built their business around this, know your numbers so you're making money at this. The other part on this, I love this saying, Chris, is that every of the entrepreneurial spirit and commitment is going to roar this industry back. And I think everyone needs to understand this. And this you hear all the time, well, what's the percentage are going to close? How many people are not going to open up? This industry is built on innovation. This industry is built on people starting out with almost nothing and building empires of businesses. The entrepreneurial spirit of this industry is unbelievable. And, we always say, and I forget what it was, it might have been with one of our calls before, Chris, on our shows, is that someone said, yeah, there might be 20% that close and never open up again, but there'll be another 20% that open up with a different concept. Mm-hmm. And that's what we need to focus on. Mm-hmm. And, we know ghost kitchens are going to pop up, cooperative ghost kitchens, cooperative restaurants, different ways of delivery, third party or not. This industry is here to stay. It's just going to be a little different, and that's okay. And, I was listening to, and I apologize, I'm going to talk a little bit here. I was listening to Simon Sinek yesterday, and he's one of my favorite speakers. And he was talking about this crisis. It is, in a way, similar to when internet came into the world, to the business models. A lot of restaurants closed, or not restaurants, businesses closed because of the internet. And it disrupted their model of business. And a lot of businesses pivoted their business models and sustained business moving forward. Some didn't. And we know who those are. They're no longer here, right? And that's the thing that you see a lot of these restaurants out there that never did take out. And I think, Chris, the other day we talked about a restaurant that never did fried chicken, tried fried chicken, now it's a hit. Yeah. So there's a lot of these things out there that people are adjusting their business to cater to the new norm. That's where I think that whole line there is that this industry will roar back. It may not look what it is today, but there's definitely going to be people eating out, going to your restaurant, right? It may be social distance restaurant models. We'll get through all this, but I think it's a good point to bring back.
I think there was a point made in an article I read in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. They said that, we're never going to bounce back from this. Customers aren't going to come back, etc. Yeah. And I don't know I can't remember the numbers, but more than 50% came back, and they've got double what they had before. It's to your point, it will come back in full force.
You're absolutely right, and I think that's where this industry is amazing. And I think that's why Chris and myself just been so drawn into it over the 30 plus years. Is the innovation's incredible. I'm an innovation kind of guy. I love innovation. I love changing things up, as Chris knows very well. It is something that I know that will come back stronger than ever. So I don't want everyone on the call today or listening to this get stuck up in those numbers. Those are just numbers, okay? look at it. And if you are in a position where you have to close down and you did take a hit, well, get ready to get back up and try something else in this industry, right? Um, People always got to eat, and people love food, and people love socializing. And I know there'll be a day that people want to be in that room and in that environment, that special, unique environment that you get sitting in a restaurant having chicken wings, Chris, and a cold soda, right? And the napkin, like all those things, man, we miss all those things. So,
Yeah.
And being around people, the social aspect. Yeah.
We miss that, right? Man, I miss that. I miss restaurants so bad. I'm going to move this over to Chris. Just talk a little bit about some of the things around Vantage Partners. We touched on this briefly, but I just want everyone to make sure that they understand before we get into talking about cleaning and sanitizing is that we have a company we partnered with the Canadian Institute of Food Safety. Check out their website. I think we have it there. There's a discount they're offering customers or Sysco's on there. Please check it out. But go and look at it because we know that we're going to have everyone certified. We're going to have to make sure everyone's got their tickets up to par, updated, current. You're going to need that. You're going to need all those different things. So reach out to companies like this. It's a partner of ours. Check it out. It's on foodiesunite.ca site and also open our Snapback Toolkit. Check them out and look at what you can do. But let's move into these other conversations, Chris.
Sure. Yeah. So am I talking about this or no?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Just a quick overview about this company. They are recognized all across Canada with the different regional and provincial guidelines and certifications for standards for all the food safety certificates. They have some great online resources that are easy to do. Back in the day when I had to get certified for food safety, back when I first started cooking, it was a 2-day course in a classroom somewhere. Now you can do it in 2-3 hours online. It's an intense course, but it's very efficient. So cleaning, sanitizing, obviously a big component. You're gonna have to get a good cleaning and sanitizing regime. You gotta have a good schedule, a good checklist. These are ever more important these days. Is got to be done. So employee health monitoring and personal hygiene. You're gonna have to have like a checklist when the staff comes in, when your team comes in. Is temperature checks, like actual physical temperature checks. Like if you have a fever, ask the questions. Have you traveled? Have you been in contact with anybody that's been COVID positive? You have to go through all the questionnaire. So,
Chris, do you think, and maybe I'll throw this to Nicole as well, that's a good point, that personal hygiene, right? Because it's a sensitive area, right? And we know you may need to rewrite what that looks like for your business, what is acceptable and not acceptable for your staff to wear now.
Well, and Nicole can add this, but it's got to be a standard, and it's if you don't hit the standard, it's turn around and go home. So
100%. Yeah, I agree. I think, at the end of the day, it's all about instilling confidence in your customers, in each other, your own team. And if there's one person that's letting the team down in any way, intentionally or not, it has to be addressed. The stakes are too high.
Well, even on that too, is that like shift changes and stuff like that, and your chef jackets and every back of that. Like think of the back of the house, Chris. The personal hygiene. Your chefs are going to have to look spick and span, and very, very professional, which most restaurants are already. But there's going to be a standard in this, and I think this is also back to what we were talking a little earlier, is around that consumer confidence. The consumer confidence of walking into a restaurant, seeing the chefs all dressed in white, clear, professional. Your staff is all professional, very top notch. You have standards in place. Reviewing those standards throughout the day, because I think it needs to be reviewed a few times during the day of how those are, and also reviewing during the day. Making sure after your lunch rush or your supper rush or your breakfast rush, you're reviewing what they look like and how they're doing. And communication. I would say being a manager in a restaurant and a supervisor in a restaurant is going to be, you have to be on your A game every minute and on top of things and moving forward and being a step or two ahead of where you are. So when you're thinking about finishing your rush and your tables or whatever you have in there for your tables, you're thinking what your post shift meeting might look like, right? How did everyone go through with that? There's a lot of things to think about how to review your conversations with your staff after that. It's going to take a little bit, but most people do.
Something else that I was intrigued about, I don't know if this has come up or if this is something that's even doable, but I wonder if the cleaning, there'll actually be a different staff member that's purely responsible for restaurant cleaning, as opposed to it being, I think in the larger establishments that the money would be there perhaps to do that, perhaps not so much in the smaller ones where the staff, the servers will have to, take on some of the sanitation duties. But yeah, I wonder if there'll be a dedicated person, and that would be a selling point, almost like a marketing tool.
You're absolutely right, Nicole. We talked about this with Maeve Webster that was on our show a few shows ago about the busser coming back, the whole model of the busser coming back, and the server not even touching dishes or dirty dishes that are on there. And then also, I just recently saw something about having a door person. If you're a busy restaurant, you can have a door person, someone that's opening the door all the time, or someone by the washrooms that are watching the washroom, so there's not two people in the washroom at the same time.
Yeah.
There's a huge amount of things to be reviewed in opening your restaurant or snapping back in there from the bathroom.
Absolutely. And it could absolutely enhance the whole restaurant experience. It's not a negative, I don't look at it as a negative.
No, not at all. I think it's, like I said, it's going to make us stronger as well, right? Through these processes, but it's going to open up new conversations that, as a lot of our managers may see this video or are getting ready to manage that brigade or front of the house staff, you're going to have to revisit your training manuals on what you're doing there. There's a lot to think about.
Yep.
So on this, I just want to touch a little bit of adapting to it. And I think that's what we're talking about right now, is really that we will have to adapt to this, right? And understand when we are looking to bring people back, and what does your business look like when you're opening up? Can you financially make it with 50% open, right? And can you do 25%? It depends on what that looks like. All I have to say is know your numbers. So all I have to say is know your numbers. We have every tool you can think of when it comes to an Excel spreadsheet to know your numbers on our site. But look what it is. Understand what you need to do. Understand what you're going to bring in, because that connects to your menu offerings, right? How much you have on your menu, your price point, your inventory, all those things are affected with that. So you need to be totally on that and know what you are. Also, you need to know to make sure you're offering that experience, that you have adjusted some of the things maybe on your menu, but also looking at your time frame. Are you open a little bit different than you are in the past? There's a lot there too to even consider, right? You don't have to be the regular hours. You can be open for a few hours a day to start, or you're open for morning before, now you're not. So a lot of different things you can do. There's a lot of things you can do with LTO menus, limit menus, specials, all these different things to create an experience. But I think the biggest thing on all this is be creative in your marketing plan of what you're doing. Engage, tell your story big time. We've seen that. I saw that with the takeout order the other day. Someone got some takeout for Takeout Wednesday, and inside the book, inside the package, they actually had a nice letter to the person getting the takeout talking about we got a dog on the call.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay, it's our world. But that's
you call your dog. They call your dog like what Jay's saying. Jay, change subject.
Sorry. That's where you need to be transparent. Tell your story, but look at your car. Like that's one thing you can do with your takeout is communicate. Say thank you in a nice personal little note or a card inside your takeout bag that they got at home, and it might state, hey, we'll see you here when we open up, and this is our open date, or this is what we're looking to do. Back to your point earlier, Nicole, of the safety procedures. Here's a few things we're doing to make it safe, so we can wait till you come back. You have control of what goes in those bags. So look at communicating and telling your guests what the experience is when they get back and you're opening it back up. So a lot of things to adapt. I think the biggest thing is don't worry about making mistakes and trying different things, because our world is really open to new things right now. So Chris, we move over to you.
There's our checklist. So I love my checklist. There's some great resources that our company has put together for the. Oh, go back.
Sorry.
Don't take my checklist away. Reopening checklist. So this is a big one here. So the one on the right there. Please go to our site and download it if your Sysco sales rep has not sent it to you. This is a one-pager PDF. It's just a basic, great checklist of all the needs you need to look at for reopening. So the must do's. So each section's got the most important aspects to check off. But of course, it's a good way to initiate the opening procedures for every corner of your kitchen. Social distancing. So some good tools there on how to build your social distancing procedures in your restaurant. So arrows on the floor are great. Everybody's been following arrows around stores for the last month. It's been great. I feel guilty. I forgot something at one aisle and have to go the wrong way. Hopefully I don't get busted. You feel like you're breaking the law, but just make sure you respect. It's all about respecting personal space and making sure you're staying safe and practicing those rules. So Sysco Advantage Partners, Jay's been through those. We're going to touch base on that later on. But just take advantage of some of our partners and save you some money and a lot of time and resources. And then the whole snapback toolkit. Just make sure you're utilizing our website and just going on there every other day to find out what's new. They're constantly adding new templates and tools and checklists and all sorts of great resources to help you navigate through the reopening of your establishment. Back to you, Mr. J.
So we talked about this a little bit earlier, but the sanitation is going to be huge, right? For everyone getting back into this. This is going to be key. Mm-hmm. So when you look at this, and customers are going to be really sensitive on this area, right? As we move and we open back up. So we're definitely going to be, they're going to be hyper, as we call it here, hyper focused, right? And they're going to be looking for everything. The scary part is that they also have a phone attached. So they're going to have the ability to take pictures of things that they may not like and stuff like that. So we're going to have to navigate through that process. You might have seen it on the internet already, some people doing these crazy things and putting it out there. This person isn't doing this person didn't have gloves, all these different things. I guess the biggest thing is that just realize that the procedures you're going to put in place on your sanitation story, I like that, is that people are going to be really sensitive to it. So I think Chris, when the days used to say over the top, like go beyond what you normally do, this is the time to do it. I don't think you can over sanitize your locations as best you can.
You got time to clean. You got time to clean.
Yeah, you got to be on top of this, right? And I think it's very, very important that you look at other companies. One of our companies that we work with a lot with is Ecolab. And Ecolab has got amazing resources. They got free webinars. There's different toolkits they have. We put a lot of them up onto our Snapback toolkit. But check with your sales rep as well, your marketing associate, to really find out what other things that they can pull out and help you with. But I really, really would encourage you to share what you're doing on social and on your website and on your flyers, and then what you're doing, like I said earlier, when you're in your off-premise dining takeout containers or letters you have in there. Tell people what you're doing. Be proud of it. You work hard for your business. You work hard for what you're doing. Don't skimp on this area. And this is definitely something. And then back to Chris's checklist earlier. Look at it. There are so many checklists out there right now. Everyone's got a checklist. But go through them, skim through them, because I tell you, there's probably one or two things on each checklist that might be different than the other one. And there is definitely things that we kind of forget. It's nice to go through this. We have a lot of pressure on our restaurants opening up to this new norm. You may forget a few things. And like I said, people are going to hyper focus on that. So you don't want to forget about those things. And I just think it's staff training and all those different things is going to go on right now. That's a huge, huge area of business and huge area to focus on.
To touch on the point you made too, just a real life story in my area alone, since end of March, a Facebook page popped up for local businesses, local restaurants. And it's not a review page. It's meant to be for promoting local business. So everyone, like on Wednesday, goes out and buys, gets takeout to support local restaurants. and there's 10,000 people on there.
Yeah.
And whilst it's not meant to be, what the intention was never for it to be a review, people are people. So they have a great experience, they share it, but equally they have a bad experience, they're sharing that. So there's a couple of good things to come from that. Obviously, you get to know who the restaurants are in your area and the good ones and all that good stuff. But one of the things that I noticed is how humane people are. People are really sticking up for, if someone did get a bad review, it's like, come on, everyone's trying. This is new to everybody. Everyone said the guy at that restaurant made amazing pizza. So then everybody called it, and they're trying to navigate the new normal with, half their staff, working more perhaps with Uber Eats and the other services. So, I think that's the key too, is to, promote kindness to the restaurants too. They're doing their best. And there's no harm in, I think, in a restaurant saying, we're trying our best, be completely transparent. We're doing everything, but we are human and we're all in this. It's changing every day.
Yeah, the stress that restaurateurs are going through right now, unbelievable.
Yeah, like Mother's Day weekend, there was actually, they took pictures of their order at this one restaurant. It was a large chain actually, but their systems went down, and they had a bunch of pre-orders, and they showed a picture of the orders that came in through Skip the Dish and Uber Eats and all the other places, and it was literally wrapped onto the floor. By the time they could access them, they had all the delivery drivers showing up at the door. It was really challenging, and but people were kind. They said, we had to wait. It was Mother's Day. We got nowhere to be. You'll be amazed how kind people will be as well, I think.
Yeah,
I agree. So, Chris, let's keep moving.
I won't hammer too much on this one. We've been talking quite a bit about the checklist and systems, but just making sure you have a good sound checklist and sticking to it. So making your list and sticking to it. Like Jay said, we've all got 100 different checklists. You walk into operations and you see clipboards hanging on the wall, and my favorite is the waste sheet that just sits there and accumulates how many trays of bacon we burnt this week and this and that. And if you don't do anything with it, it's useless. So make sure you have a checklist and it's efficient and it's applicable. So everything's checked off. And like Jay was saying earlier, and Nicole, you kind of hit on this too, the manager's role is going to be completely different in this new normal. We're going to be a little more hands-on, but a lot more supervising and just checking and double checking and triple checking and just making sure that everything is done. Because if you're one bad experience from going broke, and if social media gets a hold of this, and people can be quite critical on social media. So you want to make sure your A game is all day, every day, not just when you get busy. It's got to be 100% of the time. So.
Yeah, and you know what, Chris, I want to talk just a few things on these checklists and stuff like that, just some procedures. And we call it Restaurant 101 in a sense. Really, they're basic things that have been around forever. But when's the last time you did an operational walk around, right? Man, these are bringing back a lot of memories from when I ran restaurants. But we used to do this. We used to walk around the restaurant before we changed in the morning. And then or we went to a changeover. We usually walked around with the other manager around the restaurant, physically outside, and just seen it from a consumer perspective. Made sure there was no garbage in the trash, because that's going to be vital as well. You might be garbage cans outside that are overflowing. We don't know. There might be something in the parking lot that you need to be aware of. Then walk through the front doors as a consumer. How's the doors look? Is there a door person there? Is the door clean? Right? Are you handing menus? Like the server, like all these different things. Your hostess, if you have one, how do they look? That's your first impression. How are they approaching people? And we'll talk about that in a second here when it gets into staffing. How are they approaching people when they walk into the restaurant? Is it a big hug? Can you hug them? Probably not, right? As much as we want to. All these different things need to be thought of. And these are basic things from the old days, or I want to say it that way, but that are really might be resurfacing and need to be reviewed for everyone that's opening back up. But it is really simple. And then we look at other things when you start your checklist for cash controls as well, is when you're checking people out. And I know most restaurants will be contactless, which will help with some of this. But you need to make sure that process is all set up and reviewed as well. is how are they doing their cash outs for the day through their systems and things like that, right? There's going to be a whole training around that and dealing with it. So definitely when you look at this Restaurant 101, I think it's like should be Restaurant 101, the checklists, because that's really where it is, Chris. There's so many checklists in restaurants in every area. You need to review those, use them, build them, borrow them from us on our website. We have them, everything there, but there'll be a check and procedure. I'm going to say almost for every area of your business now.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on here. Let's move over here. Knowing your numbers, Chris. This is one of Chris's favorite areas. Is knowing your numbers.
Absolutely. Bringing my notes back up here. Yeah, so knowing everything, and this is something we can talk about for 2 hours on just this one slide alone. So knowing how your profitability and your financial pulse of your restaurant is at all times, knowing what your costs are, what your daily labor cost is, what your hourly labor cost is, knowing your recipes and your menus. Here, thanks, Jay. So your cost of goods sold plus your labor equals your prime cost. So these are your two biggest cost factors in a service restaurant or any kind of food establishment. So your food costs, your food and your labor is the two. It's probably going to be just over half of your total cost just for your labor and your raw goods. So making sure this is sound. So once you start adding up all the other costs, the rent, the insurance, and manager cost and marketing and yada up. We call it the magic nickel, where you come down to your 5% pre-tax profit for your operation. But if any of the other numbers are off, you can adjust it, and fixed costs are fixed costs, but these variable costs here, they can get out of control in a heartbeat. So you want to make sure you're on top of these. So making sure
I was going to say, Chris, especially with all the cleaning that we're going to be doing now.
Yeah, labor's going to be much higher.
Well, labor, but in the cleaning category,
yeah.
Like you may have to buy extra sanitizer you never had to before, or you're using more of that product right now. Those are that's money, right? On those areas.
So customers, is anybody out there listening? We're going to have to charge more. We're going to have to charge more to our guests. I would expect to pay more if I'm coming to a different operation. There's more labor. I'm counting on you spending, as an operator, spending more money on cleaning your restaurant and all your hard services and your sanitation cost. I would expect to pay 5 to 10% more, and which is not. I'm not going to bat an eye on that. And hopefully your customers aren't disputing that. Where last week their burger and fries is $18, and this week it's that you're reopened is $21. Hopefully you're not getting any negative feedback on that, because our costs have gone up to operate. Labor, just adding more bodies, like you said, Nicole, adding that extra staff member to be the busser or someone holding the door. Those costs are critical. So keeping an eye on your cost and knowing where every penny is going to be critical.
It really will be, Chris. And I think just knowing them, knowing your numbers, tracking your waste, tracking your cleaning equipment, all the supplies you're going to have in there, man, there's going to have to be a lot of costs added into that area. As you alluded earlier, Chris, we have such a small margin in this industry that all these things need to be accounted for, and adding another person into your mix, full-time, part-time, to clean tables right now, that adds costs, right? Like
could be as much as 5% more.
More. Exactly, right?
Or you're going to have to look at, the remuneration for staff for servers if they have to do this. You're changing their job to all intents and purposes if you're adding a bunch of other duties. New skills that they're going to have to learn. That may reflect in the hourly pay rate. So.
That's a good point. They're serving less tables and accumulating less tips. They need to be compensated for spending that extra labor in the back of the house where they're not actually checking in bills and stuff. That's a good point, Nicole.
Right. And I know that back in the day when we had bussers in the restaurants I ran, we had to tip them out, right? There was a tip factor into the busser, so that reduces much. So more support staff as a server, the more you have to tip out, if that model is what restaurants are using, right? So it is very, very, very tight tight, fine area that you'll have to work through. And like I said before, we'll work through it. You'll get through it. So let's talk about establishing systems right now. So let's get into this, talk a little bit about this, embracing systems within labor, reservations, inventory, and off-premise dining. So knowing your labor cost is going to be huge, right? You're going to need to know based on your sales what you can have as labor, right? Because it all equals out into what you want, as Chris said earlier, what your profit is. And maybe you'll have to take a little bit of that profit down just to get the wheels rolling again and to get back into it. But it is definitely something that I would really recommend starting to look at and starting to understand, and where you can cut costs as well. Don't be afraid of that, right? Make cuts when it makes sense. When you are bringing your staff back, or you're looking at having, maybe it's part-time to start out with until you can get rolling again. But really look at what you can do. And I think that's where we see a lot of these menu adjustments, Chris, on people going to smaller menus. We've said this for years, small menus. Now I think most people are forced to. So that's going to cut some costs big time when it comes to our cost there, that we may be able to allude that into our labor as well, right? Like shift it over into our labor numbers. So there might be some opportunities there. The other thing on this, and Nicole, maybe you can chat on this as well, is the fact that I think this is not brilliant, but I think it's something to think about. Cross training, right? And I know a lot of the restaurants that I worked in the past, cross training was big, right? So some of the servers would have to work in the kitchen, some of the kitchen people have to work in the front. It was vice versa. A lot of the people that were more senior level would be diverse within cross training within that restaurant. Do you see that, Nicole? Like from the things that you deal with, the cross training is becoming. Do you hear of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly in smaller organizations, it's always been useful. You know, I think if people know other people's roles and can step in, then it's key. Plus, from a career development perspective, I think people naturally always want to learn and add different things to their resumes. So if you can cross-train and add to your resume, add new skill and skill development and training, I think that's great. I mean, I would definitely encourage that.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be big. And Chris, we saw that in the kitchen, right?
Yeah.
Most kitchens you moved up, so you were trained on each station. So I would say that cross training there, but
Natural.
Might be some of the opportunities to get some of the people in the front of the house trained in the back of the house, vice versa. So I really think cross training is going to be big again, if it wasn't in the past. But it's something to definitely look at. Reservations. So embracing systems and reservations. So we have an advantage partner with Squirrel Systems, a POS system that we have. A lot of people use them. I believe looking at those kind of companies within reservations is important. But look at what you have within that. Are you able to offer a reservation system now? And can you stagger times and seating times within your operation? There might be some opportunities there as well. So people are comfortable, so they don't have to wait in a lineup in front of your restaurant waiting to get in. They can create an online reservation system that tells them when they can come in and when they can't. So something to look at and really talk about more and more. Inventory, we've talked about this in previous webinars, is making sure we have a system in place for your inventory. Knowing your inventory, especially if you're running a retail business now into your operations, critical. Know what you're doing there. Know your numbers, know your inventory, check your inventory so it doesn't go out the back door. You got to be on top of that. It's very, very, very important. And then also here, just briefly, off-premise dining. We talked a lot about this again. But make sure that your solutions, when you look at this and you're embracing systems, you got a great system within your packaging and what you're deciding on within that. And we've got some available resources in our Snapback toolkit regarding packaging and what you can have within your packaging for takeout and your offsite delivery. You need to look at that. You need to know what to have as a good packaging product. I order from one place here that I live in, and their packaging is so incredible. You almost don't want to throw it out. Like, it's so good, right? but is it recyclable? There's no notion in there. Is it recyclable? Is it good for the environment? All these things that people are going to be like hypersensitive, as we said earlier. We need to really review and make sure that we're doing the right thing when it comes to packaging. But definitely something you need to consider when you're embracing systems is you have a good plan within your packaging. So when you look at this, how do we train our staff on this? I'm going to move over to Chris and Nicole around this.
I'm going to throw this to Nicole. I want to hear what
The expert.
what your advice is, bringing the team back and bringing everybody back. So this is all yours.
Well, I personally think leadership is going to be king. Communication. Make sure that your staff are aware of all the changes you've made in the restaurant. Make sure they are aware that they will be provided PPE. I think in order to get them back, you've got to instill confidence in them, and that's going to come from the management. To ensure them that they're safe, that they're going to be trained. There's going to be skill development and training to ensure that they are keeping themselves, their teammates, and customers safe.
Yeah.
And I think that communication is key. And I think there's also on the restaurants, the operators' perspective, if someone isn't ready to come back for whatever reason, respect people's personal risk assessments. Everyone's in a different, you mentioned earlier, we're all in this together. And I've heard that. And I say, we are in this together, but we're not all necessarily in the same boat. We've all got different boats. Yeah. Because, some people have a yacht and some people are in a dinghy with a hole in it. So, this pandemic is affecting everybody, but maybe the person has something, wrong, an autoimmune, something that puts them at higher risk and they're not ready to come back. They may change their mind. If it's your star person, then, just give them time. I think that's good management. And the last thing I would say is one of the things I've definitely seen on the food processing side, because I have a foot in both food processing and food service, is ask your staff, invite them to be part of the solution. What do you think we should do? What are you seeing? And have them and adopt their ideas. And I think that really does instill that feeling of we are in this together. We are a team. Let's make this work. Let's make our restaurant the cleanest, the busiest, the one that people are raving about online. But I definitely think bringing their staff into that conversation and, as I say, implementing their ideas. Maybe the idea won't work, but show them that you respect their ideas and you're listening to them. And I think that will increase engagement and retention and all that good stuff as well. So that would be the key points I would stress to operators.
Awesome.
So when you're considering that, and I think you nailed it on it really well there, Nicole, is that leadership component, right, is going to be big. They're going to be really looking for you to lead them through getting back into, I guess, the into the mindset of working again and being very sensitive to what they're dealing with at home or what they're dealing with overall in life, right? There's a lot of things to really consider there when you bring them back, right? But I think the thing is, and the other part here that we have is maintaining that culture, right? And that team environment, and that they are getting trained all the time and they feel confident. That is going to reiterate into how they really take care of your guests, right? They feel safe, they feel taken care of, they're being led right. It will get into what your guests see when they come into your restaurant.
Absolutely.
So when you look at this, and I want to talk a little bit about, there's the phased approach, right? And there's different things that we can look at around phasing things in. And that could be, like we said earlier, slowly getting to where you want to call as your new business model, right? And what that looks like. So take your time at that, move into those areas. I think it's something that will take time. The culture in your restaurant is going to be so critical of how everyone's going to support each other through this process. We've seen that even within what we're doing at Sysco. The culture right now is very strong. We're trying to take care of our people and make sure we're doing the right things for our business, but for our people. Morale and motivation you're going to have to bring that up more and more. Would you agree, Nicole, on that? I think that's big.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, I think it's key. I mean, in terms of, as I say, having regular meetings and discussing new ideas.
It will be big.
Did I lose you there?
Big. So when you look at this, let's move in about training.
Hello?
Oh, you're still there, Nicole?
I'm still here.
Okay, just making sure. So let's talk a little bit about training. Okay, train your staff. So policy and procedures, right? It's going to be something that we really need to look at. Attendance, right? Breaks. What's a break look like, Chris, moving forward for your chefs? Have you thought of that? What you'd recommend?
Yeah, I mean, the day of people standing out in the back of a restaurant having a cigarette and having their breaks outside is going to be very, very cautious about it. We're going to have to do that. So of course you have to be outside if you want to go for the associates that smoke. You want to be very careful about this because hand washing has never ever been so important. So the gloves, I go crazy when we see gloves in stores, and I don't know how long that cashier at the grocery store has been wearing those gloves. So gloves are meant to be a single use tool. So you use them once, tear them off. Next customer comes in, you put a new set on. I just get totally aggravated when I go to a takeout restaurant and you see the person making your sandwich or burger or whatever behind the line, and then they're handling cash, and then they're putting the gloves back on. I've seen it numerous times, and I absolutely make that person get a new set of gloves before they make my meal and take them off before they handle the cash and then next customer. So I think training the back of the house staff is definitely got to be, if you're in the public eye, you got to be very clean and
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just want to throw in here. Sorry, Nicole, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and that constant training. I think it's always, like you said, we're in it right now. There's always going to be something new coming up. So eyes are open, ears are open, and constantly evolving to give the best service.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, and I want everyone to know this, is there's a company called Spiffy that we have as a Vantage partner. They do online training modules on more of an Instagram kind of model within their how you can train your staff. Why I say you need to look at companies like this is because your training procedures may be needed to adjust over time.
Yeah.
You may need to change those up as well, right? So they may you having a stagnant training manual in some of these procedures, you may need to adjust over the next few weeks every day or change it. Now, using companies like Spiffy, where you can change it on a fly and it's on their phones and it's mobile, and it's like an Instagram training process, and they have templates already built for you. Check them out. It's worth it to look into those companies to see how they can make this whole training process, because it's going to be huge. And that also includes policies as well. Attendance policies. If someone does get sick and it's not related to COVID-19, what's your procedures in that area? Those will have to be outlined as they come back and what that looks like as well.
Mm-hmm.
So on this, let's talk a little bit about cleaning. Let's talk about the tables, right? And when you look at this, how many times have you been in a restaurant and you would see a dirty table? Those things you're going to have to be on top of that so much, and making sure your staff's well trained. I hate to say it this way, but it's simple: how to clean a table properly. And there is ways to clean a table off, and there's ways not to clean a table off. And you need to really make sure that those processes are in place. You're on top of those things more and more. I know we sound a little repetitive, but those are really, really critical as well.
It might even be the case that, the paper tablecloths, or just to show it's brand new, again, for the consumer confidence, maybe that's going to be something that a lot of restaurants decide to adopt.
Yeah, and this will also be when you look at bringing people back. You're going to have to review your new procedures and policies within your operation, and your hiring manuals are going to have to be updated to adjust this. This is so much work that everyone's going to have to do, and if there's anything that we can do to help, please look at Spiffy. They may be able to help you with some of this to speed it up and make it a little bit more efficient for you. So There's really, really a lot of work there to make sure your procedures are in place.
Like in hotels, where they sometimes put like a paper strap around the toilet to prove that it's not being used.
Yeah.
That I think there's an opportunity to get really creative and have some fun with this in a dark time. And I don't know, make that dining space look like you're the first to crack it open, sort of thing. No pun intended.
I don't know if the analogy between the two should be applied. Yeah, you're gonna get the authentic podcast webinar here, folks. Thank you, Nicole. But the one thing on this is make sure your staff knows. I'm going to say this really clear: why this is all happening, right? And Chris, you said we had 5 cents to work with margins pre-COVID. What those margins percentages are now and those dollars now are so critical that your staff, and we have young staff in here that may not be as aware of how fine it is to make money in this industry, right? You need to let them know why you're doing all these things, why there's a busser now, why you're having to do these extra additional cleaning procedures, why the cutlery has to be wrapped now instead of open. All these procedures need to be clearly defined for your staff to know what they have to go through, because we want the business to be here so they have a job and they have a place to work. So you need to be clear on that. And I think, if I was back in the industry, I'd be so open in communicating to my staff all the time to why we're doing this. Because as soon as they know why, I would say everyone would help, and everyone's going to be aware of that. It's like back in the day, Chris, we used to train our staff on food cost. Why are you training the servers on food cost? They got to know. They drop a plate, it costs money to replace it, right? So a lot of things in there. Train your staff. We're here to help. You're not alone on this. Use Spiffy, use our companies we're here to help you with. Please don't think you're alone on this. We'll help you through it. So, there's some pop-ups we're going to talk about there. So let's go into additional labor considerations. Chris, I'll throw this one at you.
Throw it back to me. All right, here we go. So we're going to talk about some value-added products here. So looking to get some labor-saving items in your establishment. Just like you said, looking for different products that can reduce labor. We talked about QR codes earlier in the show here, talking about how we can eliminate some of the hard printed menus and reducing those. That was one thing we want to touch on. Limited menu offerings, so having reduce your cost and reducing your inventory. So that is one thing. Modified hours is a big one. So if you're not needing to be open till midnight every night, the dining public might not be going out late as much. They just want to go for a quick, safe bite, and they're going to be your prime times of your operation are going to change. So it's no longer is it the 5 o'clock supper hour till 9-10 o'clock in the after movie rush. It may be just your solid dinner rush and you close earlier, or just having a dinner lunch rush and then close for the afternoon because there's no light casual traffic. So just keep an eye on all that. So labor considerations, because are going to have to readjust and reshift your focus on your labor to different areas of your operation. It's not just going to be idle time where you can afford to have staff lingering around just doing other things, but you're going to have more people at the core times and less people at the down times.
Yeah, Chris, can I just talk a little bit about value-added products? Because
sure you can.
We've been talking about value-added products for many years, but this is definitely, especially in the kitchen, it may be time to look at some of these things, right, to cut down on labor, right? And I'm always thinking tomatoes, right, or cutting carrots and all these different things. A lot of this stuff comes pre-done. You may want to start looking into it when you start looking at replacing someone, right, and getting it pre-done for you and looking at those value-added products might be a way to save money right now in these times, right? And definitely look at that. We have every value-added product I think you can get in this industry, but it might be time to look at those. Peeled potatoes. Peeled potatoes. Oh my God. Peeled potatoes. Who peel potatoes anymore? You can buy them peeled, right? The amount of times and hours that are spent peeling potatoes to save, and it may cost a little bit, but that labor, plus they don't show up sick. I think that's what the old line was, right?
Yeah.
And it's something to look at, but those things need to be reviewed. They may seem high, but you're looking at reducing all those labor things are going to be big. LTOs are coming up right now too, Chris, and those are limited time offers. We're going to see this in the QS model here right away. Starting to see a little bit come into the marketing area where people are starting to talk about LTOs, and this will be big. I believe there'll be a burger war again, like we had in 2008. It was who could have the lowest combo meal in the QS model when it came to burgers, and a lot of QSRs were fighting to bring consumers in the cheapest price point on a combo. So I think you'll see that. Now on that, for independent operators, you can fight these things, right? It doesn't mean that you're going to lose to them. You can go in there and you can offer deals as well on combos. You can do a lot they can't do. So please look at that. It's really, really big. Modified hours, Chris, what do you think about this?
Yeah, like I just said, like modifying your operations, like you gotta cut your costs where you can and spend it where you need to. And I think modified hours is going to be a good focus for you to help you manage your labor hours, because you need to refocus and reshift it to different areas of your operation. So modifying your hours, if you don't need to be open, like I said, if you don't need to be open at 7 a.m. because there's no business, you just want to be competing against that donut place across the parking lot. There's no need for that. So you need to be very smart with your scheduling and your allocating of the resources.
So the last thing here that we talk about that we have on the slide here is adaptability. And this is big. And this is talking about menu, staffing, how much you're going to be open for. You need to be adaptable. And this is something that I think we're going to see more and more. And back to what you're saying earlier, Nicole, is really around the fact that people are able to help. And I think it'll be really, really big on this. So anyways, let's move on, Chris. We're going to just shut this down here. We're going to wrap her up here. But moving forward, what's coming up next week? Marketing and social media. We have on Tuesday next week at 3 p.m. Eastern time. We got some great information. This is going to be big when we talk about your social presence, or what you need to know, what you need to do moving forward. That is going to be really big. And then we're going to finish off this 5-part series on Thursday, May 28th at 3 p.m. Eastern time around knowing your numbers, right? Chris gets all excited about this. This is one of my favorite things. He teaches this, right? So it is definitely an area that we were going to talk more and more about as we move forward. And as we told everyone through this whole session, we have all the resources. I don't say all of them, but we have a ton of them. We're going to continue to add to them in our Snapback Toolkit on our foodisunite.ca site. Check it out. Like I said, we've got everything in there. We're going to help you with getting back into business and snapping back into it. We want to see you open. We can't wait to have you open. We got more podcasts coming up, more webinars. We're going to have cooking classes coming up here. We've got a lot of exciting things that we're going to bring to you through our Facebook Live page, through Spotify, iTunes, YouTube as well. I think a lot of different ways. And we're going to keep continuing to build our Advantage program, bringing you new companies that are out there you might not be aware of. We're going to continue to build on that as we move forward. But as we wrap up here, Nicole, thanks again. And
thank you for having me.
And you know what? Food Grads, we're a big supporter of this. We're going to continue to support as we move forward. It is big because we know we want to encourage people to get in the industry. Nothing is more than now is working with you to make sure people know that this is an industry that is going to come back, but is going to be an area that you can have a career in.
Yeah, long-term career. That's exactly it. I think there's going to be lots of change going forward, but I think there's an opportunity to change for the better. And, you know, like you mentioned, cross-training, looking at different career paths that you might have not explored before. And I'm excited. I think, you know, there's lots to look forward to as well. But I appreciate you having me on. I'm sorry about the puppy. He's not very well trained.
All good.
It's so good. We're used to it. We're used to it. But no, thanks again, Nicole. And, you know, when I think about what this industry is going to need, it's going to need people like yourself that bring in people that are new, innovative, young, that are excited to get this industry back up to where it looks like it's going to be new. and
Yeah.
it's a new time. It's a new world. This is our big hit, like the internet did to a lot of businesses way back in the day when it came into our world and changed things up. This is not going to destroy this industry. This will just make it stronger and change it for the future. So,
I agree.
once again, Chris, always a pleasure having you on.
Pleasure's
here,
all mine. Thanks,
right?
Nick.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks to everyone else. And for everyone else, check us out on Tuesday next week at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll talk marketing and social media. I'm going to bring an expert in. I believe we have a couple of them that might come in for this one. So we might have 2 extra hosts on it. But Chris will be here. I will be here once again. But thanks again to everyone else that is able to watch the video. We're going to continue to bring this forward. Sorry for going a little over time, but so it happens when you're having fun and sharing as much as we can. So thanks again, Nicole, to everyone else. Have a great rest of your day and a great weekend ahead. And we'll move on and we'll see you next week. Thanks so much,
Stay
Chris.
well, everybody.
Thank you. Stay well.
Take care.